Story 1, The Dyatlov Pass Incident. On the night of February 1, 1959, something terrifying happened deep within the frozen mountains of the northern Ural region in Russia. More than 60 years later, nobody knows exactly what occurred. What happened to 9 experienced hikers has become one of the most disturbing mysteries in modern history. And the evidence they left behind only raises more questions.
It's so cold.
The group consisted of 10 young hikers led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov.
I'm heading back.
They were all
Take care,
experienced
everyone.
mountaineers,
See you at the
skilled
summit.
in
Be
surviving
safe.
extreme winter conditions, and were attempting a difficult expedition across the
I'm
remote
heading
Ural
back.
Mountains.
Take care, everyone.
Before
See you at the
beginning their
summit.
journey,
Be
one
safe.
member of the team became ill and returned home. That decision would save his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued into the wilderness. The weather worsened as they traveled. Powerful winds swept across the mountains. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Snowstorms reduced visibility to almost nothing. By February 1st, the group reached the eastern slope of a mountain known as Koletsyakul. The name translates to Mountain of the Dead. Nobody at the time thought much about the ominous name. That night, the hikers pitched their tent on an exposed mountainside rather than descending into a nearby forest for shelter. Why they made that decision remains unclear. It would be their final camp. When the group failed to return on schedule, rescue teams were organized. Days later, searchers located the tent. The scene was bizarre. The tent was partially buried beneath snow. But what shocked investigators was how the tent had been opened. The fabric had been slashed from the inside.
It was cut from the inside.
The hikers had apparently cut their
Why
own
would they
escape
tear it
route through
open?
the tent wall.
It makes
Even
no
stranger,
sense.
all of their boots, heavy coats, food supplies, and winter survival equipment were still inside. The temperature outside was deadly. No experienced mountaineer would willingly leave without proper clothing. Yet that appeared to be exactly what had happened. Footprints led away from the tent. Investigators discovered that the group had walked, not run, down the slope. Some were barefoot. Others wore only socks. A few appeared to have only one shoe. The trail led toward a forest nearly a mile away. Beneath a large cedar tree, rescuers discovered the first 2 bodies. The victims were wearing only underwear. Despite the freezing temperatures, they had attempted to build a fire. Broken branches high in the tree suggested one or both had climbed it, perhaps trying to see something in the darkness. Nearby, investigators found the bodies of 3 more hikers. They appeared to be attempting to return to the tent. One had collapsed face down in the snow. Another was found several hundred feet farther uphill. The leader, Igor Dyatlov, was discovered with his arms positioned as if he had been crawling toward safety. The remaining 4 hikers were missing.
I hit something.
For months,
Easy.
rescuers searched
that-
the area. Eventually, they found the final victims buried beneath deep snow inside a ravine.
Easy.
Their injuries
Is
were
that-
horrifying. One woman was missing her tongue. Several had severe chest fractures.
Easy.
Others
Is
suffered
that-
massive skull injuries.
Oh no.
Yet there were very few external wounds. One
How can the
investigator
ribs be
compared the damage
pulverized
to
if
what
there
would
is
be
no
expected
impact
from a
wound?
high-speed car crash.
I have never seen
The force
anything
required
like
to
this.
cause such injuries was immense.
How can the ribs be pulverized
But there were no
if there is
signs
no
of a
impact
struggle.
wound?
No evidence
I
of
have
another
never seen
person's
anything
presence.
like this.
No weapons.
How can the ribs be
No
pulverized if
footprints.
there is no impact wound?
Nothing. As
I have never
investigators
seen
continued
anything like
examining
this.
the evidence, the mystery deepened. Some articles of clothing tested positive for elevated levels of
This
radiation.
makes no sense at all.
Witnesses in nearby regions reported
Look at
seeing
the
strange
sky!
orange
What is
lights in the
happening?
sky during the same period.
We're losing contact
Rumors
with the base.
began spreading
they are
rapidly.
everywhere now.
Had the hikers encountered secret
This is where
military
they died,
experiments?
on the slopes of
Were they attacked
Kholatsyakhl.
by unknown intruders? Did they witness
kind of
something they
force
should
is
not
this?
have seen? Soviet authorities eventually closed the case. The official explanation was bizarrely vague. The hikers, they claimed, had died due to an unknown compelling force. No further details were provided. Over the decades, countless theories emerged. Some believed an avalanche had forced the group from the tent. Others suggested military testing. Still others pointed to infrasound generated by wind, causing panic and irrational behavior.
So cold.
A few proposed
feel
far
our
stranger
hands.
explanations involving cryptids, extraterrestrials, or supernatural forces.
So cold.
Yet none of the theories perfectly
feel our
explain
hands.
every piece of evidence. Why was the tent cut open from the inside?
It was cut from the
Why
inside.
leave warm clothing behind?
Why would they
Why
tear
were
it
some
open?
injuries so catastrophic while others
makes no
showed
sense.
almost no trauma? Why were radioactive traces present?
So cold.
And why did experienced
We feel our
hikers
hands.
behave in ways that seemed completely irrational? In
This
recent
is where
years,
they died,
Russian
on the
authorities
slopes of
reopened the
Kholat
investigation. They concluded that an avalanche
What
was
kind
there.
of force does this?
They concluded that an avalanche was the most likely cause. Many researchers remain unconvinced. Critics argue that the physical evidence does not fully support that conclusion. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling mysteries ever recorded. 9 healthy, experienced hikers entered the mountains. None returned.
So cold.
And somewhere
We
beneath
feel
the
our hands.
snow-covered slopes of the Mountain of the Dead, the full truth may still be buried. Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is not that we don't know what happened. It's that we may never know. Story 2, The Hinterkaifeck Murders. Imagine living on an isolated farm surrounded by dense forests and open fields. The nearest town is miles away. The roads are quiet. The nights are silent. And then, one day, you begin noticing signs that someone is watching you. Someone you cannot see. Someone who may already be living on your property. This is the terrifying true story of the Hinterkaifeck murders, one of the most chilling unsolved crimes in history. The events took place in Germany during the spring of 1922. The Hinterkaifeck farm was located between the small Bavarian towns of Ingolstadt and Schrobenhausen. It was isolated from neighboring farms, hidden among fields and woods. The people living there were the Gruber family. 63-year-old Andreas Gruber lived on the farm with his wife, Kazilia. Also living there was their widowed daughter, Victoria, and her 2 children, 7-year-old Kazilia and 2-year-old Joseph. The family kept largely to themselves. To outsiders, they appeared to live an ordinary rural life. But strange things had already begun happening before the murders. Several months earlier, the family made abruptly quit. She claimed the farm was haunted. According to her, she heard footsteps in empty rooms and strange noises coming from the attic during the night. Terrified, she refused to stay another day. At the time, many dismissed her fears as superstition. But soon, even Andreas Gruber began noticing unsettling things. A few days before the murders, he discovered unfamiliar footprints in the snow. The tracks led from a nearby forest directly to the farmhouse. What disturbed him was that there were no footprints leading away. Whoever had approached the farm had apparently never left. Andreas searched the property but found nobody. Then more strange events occurred.
Come closer.
A set of house keys disappeared.
We're
The family
waiting.
could not find them anywhere.
This
Later,
handwriting,
Andreas
the
discovered a
symbols.
newspaper
Do
that
you
nobody
recognize any of it?
recognized.
No, Andreas.
No one
I've
knew where
never
it had
seen
come
anything
from.
like it.
Then came the sounds. Footsteps echoed from the attic late at night. The noises continued for days. Andreas searched repeatedly. Each time, he found nothing. He mentioned these incidents to neighbors. But no one took the warnings seriously. After all, who would hide inside an attic for days without being discovered? No one imagined the horrifying truth that might be lurking above their heads. On March 31, 1922, a new maid arrived at the farm. It was her first day of work. She would not survive the night. What happened next remains one of history's darkest mysteries. Sometime during the evening, members of the Gruber family were lured one by one into the barn. Investigators believe little Kazilia was likely among the first. Then her mother. Then
Andreas.
her grandparents.
Where are
Each
you?
victim was attacked with a
I'm
mattock,
worried.
a farming tool similar to a pickaxe. The killer struck with brutal force. One by one, 4 family members were murdered inside the barn. Yet the horror did not end there. The murderer then entered the farmhouse. Inside, 2-year-old Joseph was asleep in his crib. The child was killed where he lay. The new maid was also murdered in her room. In a single night, 6 people were slaughtered. And nobody heard a thing. Or so it seemed. Days passed. The family failed to appear in town.
Is anyone here?
Neighbors noticed that Victoria's daughter had missed school. The mail remained untouched. Still, no one immediately investigated. On April 4th, neighbors finally became concerned enough to visit the property. What they found shocked them. The bodies were discovered beneath piles of hay in the barn. The victims had been carefully covered. Inside the house, the maid and young Joseph were found dead. The crime scene was unlike anything investigators had ever encountered. But what they learned next was even more disturbing. Evidence suggested the killer had remained on the farm after the murders. Someone had continued feeding the animals. Food had been eaten from the kitchen. Smoke had risen from the chimney. The livestock had been cared for. In other words, after murdering 6 people, the killer may have lived comfortably on the property for several days. Possibly sleeping under the same roof as the victims. Possibly walking through the rooms at night. Possibly listening to search parties approaching from the distance. The realization horrified
Ich bin
investigators.
sicher, das ist der Mörder von
Who could do
Hinterkaifeck.
something
Aber
like
wir
that?
haben keine Beweise,
And
nur
why?
Vermutungen.
Police launched one of the largest investigations Germany had ever seen. More than 100 suspects were questioned. Farm workers, neighbors, travelers, family acquaintances, even convicted criminals. Yet no suspect could be definitively linked to the murders. Years passed. Then decades. The mystery only deepened. One particularly chilling discovery came during the autopsy. Investigators found that young Kazilia had survived for several hours after the attack. Evidence suggested she had torn out clumps of her own hair while lying trapped beneath the bodies in the barn. Injured. Alone. Dying slowly in the darkness. It remains one of the most heartbreaking details of the entire case. As time passed, theories multiplied. Some suspected a robbery gone wrong. Others believed the murders were motivated by revenge. Some thought the killer was someone known to the family. Perhaps even someone who had secretly been living in the attic. The unexplained footprints and strange noises certainly seemed to support that possibility. One theory focused on Victoria's former lover. Another implicated neighboring farmers. Others suggested drifters passing through the area. Yet every lead eventually collapsed. No arrests were ever made. No confession was ever verified. No clear motive was ever established. Even more unsettling, many investigators believed the murderer knew the property intimately. The attacks appeared organized. The victims were killed in a sequence that suggested planning. The killer moved confidently around the farm. As though he belonged there. As though he had spent considerable time watching the family. Perhaps from the attic. Perhaps from somewhere much closer. The farmhouse itself remained standing for a short time after the murders. Curiosity seekers visited from across Germany. Many wanted to see the infamous crime scene for themselves. Eventually, the building was demolished. But destroying the farmhouse did not destroy the mystery. To this day, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved. No one knows exactly who committed the crime. No one knows why 6 innocent people were killed. And no one knows whether the mysterious footsteps in the attic were connected to the murders. Yet one possibility continues to haunt researchers. What if the family was being watched for weeks before their deaths? What if the footprints, missing keys, and attic noises were warnings? Signs that an intruder had already moved in. Watching. Waiting. Learning their routines. Listening to their conversations. And when the moment was right, emerging from the shadows to carry out one of the most terrifying crimes in history. A century later, the farm is gone. The victims are long buried. The witnesses are dead. But the mystery remains. And somewhere in the darkness of Bavaria's past, the identity of the Hinterkaifeck killer may still be waiting to be discovered.
Time to
Story
head on
3,
home now,
The
children.
Villisca Axe Murders.
A little longer, please.
On a quiet
The moon
summer
is
night in
barely up.
1912, the small town of Villisca, Iowa, went to sleep believing it was one of the safest places in America. The streets were peaceful. The doors were rarely
Time to
locked.
head on home now, children.
Neighbors knew each other
A
by
little
name.
longer, please.
Crime
The
was
moon is
almost
barely
unheard
up.
of. No one could have imagined
Time
that
to
by
head on home
sunrise,
now,
8
children.
people would be dead.
A little longer, please.
And that the killer
The
would
moon is
vanish without a
barely up.
trace. More than a century later, the Villisca Axe murders remain one of the most terrifying unsolved crimes in American history.
Time
The
to
story
head on
begins
home
on
now,
June 9,
children.
1912.
A little longer, please.
The Moore
The moon
family
is
attended a
barely up.
church program that evening. Josiah Moore, a respected businessman, was there with his wife Sarah and their 4 children. The family
All right,
seemed
everyone.
happy.
Time to close your eyes now.
Nothing appeared unusual.
But we're not tired yet,
Also
Sarah.
accompanying
we
them
want to
home
hear
that
another
night were 2
story.
young sisters, Lena and Ina Stillinger. The girls were family friends who had been invited to spend the night. After the church event ended around 9:30 p.m., the group returned to the Moore house. The children prepared for bed. Lights were turned off. The house grew quiet. Outside, the town settled into darkness. At some point during the night, a killer entered the home. Investigators later believed the murderer may have entered earlier and hidden inside the house, waiting for everyone to fall asleep. If true, it meant the killer spent hours silently listening to the family move about their home. Watching. Waiting. Patiently preparing for what would come next. Sometime after midnight, the attack began. The murderer picked up an axe belonging to the Moore family. Then he climbed the stairs. The first victims were Josiah and Sarah Moore. Both were asleep when the killer struck. The attacks were brutal and overwhelming. Neither had a chance to defend themselves. One by one, the murderer moved through the house. The children's bedrooms came next. Herman, Catherine, Boyd, Paul. Each child was attacked while sleeping. The killer then descended to the downstairs guest room where Lena and Ina Stillinger slept. They too became victims. By dawn, 8 innocent people lay dead inside the small house. The murders were horrifying enough. But the crime scene itself contained details that disturbed even experienced investigators.